Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining me on the Slice of Healthcare podcast. I'm your host, Jared Taylor. Today I'm joined by Tanjina Shapiro, the Chief Operating Officer at Curation Health. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You and I were talking earlier. We've had, Dr. Lambert, we've had Kevin on, we have Danielle, who's in your HR department, and now I get to speak with the Chief Operating Officer. So I'm excited to chat.
I'm glad to be invited to the party.
Yeah, let's have a ball. This will be a ton of fun. I want to start things off real direct. I'd love to learn more about your background, and then we'll talk more about a recent byline that you put together.
Sure, sounds good. So just a little background about myself. I have had a non-traditional background in starting in finance, and then I've done some work in international development, and then moving into nonprofit before I found my way into healthcare. So I had a master's in finance, and I worked in an investment banking firm for 6 months and quickly realized that that was not the culture or the lifestyle that I wanted to be in. And so through that, I worked with a large nonprofit organization based in Washington, D.C. Called AARP, and learned a lot in terms of operations, working with the 50+ audience and their wants and needs, and really doing a lot of research to understand how the 50+ use technology, which is different than how your conventional marketing is done for that audience. And so learned a lot through that process in account management, and then later on business development. And then while I was doing my executive MBA at the University of Maryland, I was looking to try to understand where I wanted to take my career next. And through a lot of informational interviews and networking, I really was interested in seeing how healthcare is adopting technology and how technology is changing the lives of physicians as well as patients. And so through that process, I got to work with at Evolent Health, where I managed their risk adjustment operations department. We launched a lot of the next gen ACO lives and populations there. It was a program at the time that was being ramped up. And then from there, I moved to Curation Health about a little over 2 years ago. Really liked how Kevin framed what he's doing at Curation and how he wants to build Curation as a 2.0 version. And so was really excited to be able to be a part of the organization.
And I'm sure they're really excited to have the opportunity to work with you every day, especially given that background. I mean, I think your experience at AARP and then also Evolent Health is just a perfect matchup for what you're trying to build over there. That unique skill set definitely would fit in well with what's going on at Curation Health. It's funny you talk about the investment banking thing, because I actually, when I graduated college, I worked for a small investment bank in the telecom space, and I lasted 6 months. I'm a sales marketing person, and I always thought, that finance was going to be my focus. Mm-hmm. But when I wasn't able to talk with people, and the only people I would end up talking with were CFOs, which nothing against certain CFO, but a sales and a CFO person don't necessarily, they're not the perfect match, right? Mm-hmm. In many cases, but nevertheless, it was funny that you mentioned that. So I thought I'd just add that.
I've done a lot of different roles, but I find operations to be the most exciting, because it's kind of like a role where you have your hands in different pots. Your every day is a different experience, different challenges, different problems to solve for. So I really enjoy that, and it also enables me to be able to be strategic when it's necessary, but then also dig into and deep dive into the details in terms of trying to address problems and create a better experience for our clients.
Well, it's funny too, you bring that up, because my next question was going to be more about your role. So you don't need to go into as much detail now, because you gave us that good snapshot, but I'd love to learn more about kind of what does a chief operating officer role look like really at a value-based care organization like Curation Health, right? Because I'm sure it's a lot different than just traditional healthcare organizations.
Yeah, and it's really an interesting role, and I was actually a role that was created by Kevin and myself. I joined Curation as the Vice President of Client Success, and then looking at opportunities as to where the organization is and what we need. Develop the role for the COO, and as you and I were chatting, a COO role can look very different, and every single organization has a different definition for it. Funny story, I actually ended up reading the book, How to Be a COO and the 16 Disciplines of Success. And so use that to help craft sort of what my role would be within Curation Health. And it's not done yet because we're still shaping it and trying to figure out like sort of where is our organization going as a whole. And then based off of that, what does the organization need from me and my division? So essentially what my role is that, I oversee all of our client implementation as well as our client success, working very close collaboration with our engineering team, with our analytics and our product team to deliver products and services and deploy them in a way that is meaningful for our clients, that is easy to use for our clients. And then also the fun part of being in a healthcare startup is that, we're building a lot of internal tools and processes to be able to support this at scale.
It definitely seems like a very interesting role, and it's kind of cool that you got to help shape that role too. I think people definitely enjoy what they're doing even more when they have a say in like actually shaping their position. And I think, whether there's a common blueprint for each role at a company, I think it's very important that whatever someone's role is, that they have the ability to shape at least a part of it, because they're just going to care so much more about what they're doing, right, and be more involved. And it's also super interesting to be able to kind of craft your own role.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, let's dive into one of the big topics at hand that you and I wanted to discuss today, and that's embracing the ripple effects of value-based care. Can you talk us through a little bit about what that phrase means to you, and then we'll kind of go into a little deeper dive into that overall topic.
Yeah, so I think, value-based care has been around for some time, but I think, and you've talked to members of my leadership team where we say often that, even though there's still a lot of work that happens in the fee-for-service world, and especially we work a lot with physicians and simplifying solutions at point of care. So being able to move people from a fee-for-service to a value-based care world, it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of change management that's involved with that, but it does, the way that I think about it, it does have a ripple effect across the entire organization. You can't like dabble in risk in value-based care and risk adjustment. You have to sort of be committed and be all in. And so a lot of what we've been talking about internally and with our clients is how to create that ripple effect across all the entire organization, how to get people to really understand the value-based care and why it's important and what their role is within that big pie. And then also sort of looking at the resources in terms of the people, process, and technology to be able to identify where there are gaps and what needs to happen in order to move those forward in order to support value-based care in a larger scale.
So let's kind of continue off of that. Why would you say it's important to establish a flexible change management strategy, in relation to a key topic?
I mean, so at the end of the day, change, one of the things that we have to do is we all agree that healthcare is expensive in the United States, and it needs to be in a more manageable cost structure. For that to happen, radical shifts and changes need to happen. And so change is often considered as a difficult word, or it elicits a lot of sort of fear and discomfort, right? To be able to say that you're going to change from point A to point B. But I often look at it in terms of like, what am I doing personally to change things about my life? And a lot of what I work on is a better health and better balance. And so when you do those type of change, you have to understand that, what is it that you're trying to accomplish and why are you making that change? And who needs to be, because you cannot change by yourself. Like, even if I want to change into a better habit of eating healthy or exercising, I cannot do it on my own. I do it with a group of friends, with an accountability partner, etc. So change is really important in order to be able to move to a better position than where you are right now. So that's the process of change management within healthcare. And so a lot of the work that I myself and Dr. Lambert and others do is helping the organizations that we work with understand why is it important to move to value-based care. and what does that change process look like? What is your role today versus what your role will be in a value-based care world? Helping them understand and showing them a pathway of how to get there is really what that is about.
It's really interesting, and change is definitely not easy, right? There's so many different pieces to it, and one of the most important parts when you're going through that change management process, right, is really conducting a gap analysis of people, process, and technology. Can you talk a little bit more about why those three pieces are so important?
Yeah, sure. So, in a value-based care world, or in any type of world, when you're looking to make a change, the components that enable that change are the people that run that process, as well as the systems and structures that you have in place and the technology that you're using. So all those three things come into play. And as I was saying earlier, when you want to do something differently, you need to change these processes. With the people aspect of it, what training do people need in order to be able to move from a fee-for-service mindset to a value-based care mindset? What are your internal processes today to support a physician workflow that is geared towards fee-for-service? How would you change that workflow for the physician to support a more value-based care world? Same thing with technology. You may have had a system that works well for, billing in terms of a fee-for-service world, but in a value-based care world, that technology needs to evolve and needs to be better for the physician and for the support staff that is supporting the physician in doing a better job in terms of taking care of the patient. So all those three things, looking at that and from a gap analysis perspective, and then identifying what we need to do in order to change each of those processes, and continuing to, as I was saying earlier, tie it back to the why. Why is it important, and how are we all going to get there?
Yeah, it's very hard to get where you want to go, right? If people, process, and technology aren't aligned, right, and aren't firing on all cylinders. And that's the same thing when it comes to value-based care, right? And continuing to enhance that offering. What I'd like to quickly dive into before we end up wrapping up here is, can you also comment on, how should organizations go about adopting incentives to both make quality and sustainable change actually happen faster?
Yeah, sure. So I think incentive alignment is important because at the end of the day, when you're trying to make a change to a better state, you want to make sure that everyone that is part of that process is invested in that process. So incentives within the value-based care world can be incentives to patients, to physicians, and to the health system itself. We do a lot of work with advising clients in terms of how to create an incentive structure with the physicians that are actually doing the work, to help them enable and understand that the difference that they're making in terms of seeing the patient from a fee-for-service to a value-based world is different. And so how do we compensate them for that additional work that they're doing, for the additional support that they're giving to their patients? So incentive alignment is basically just kind of what ties it all together and kind of answers the question of what's in it for me, beyond sort of better patient care, better outcomes, and lower cost.
Oh, I want to thank you, by the way, again, so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your thoughts on, embracing the ripple effects of value-based care. So I look forward to having you come on again real soon. I know there's tons of other topics we can talk about. Obviously, we try to keep these things short and sweet, and you did a great job of with all your questions. But that also means there's a lot more time for other topics in the future because
Sure.
we keep it short and sweet. So thanks again, and look forward to having you on again real soon.
Sounds good. It was a pleasure. Thank you.